Welcome to Medical Practice University. I've got a special guest with us here today. Lynn Meyer is a licensed professional counselor and certified clinical trauma professional specializing in helping women of color heal from sexual and physical abuse. With over 20 years of experience, she empowers women to embrace their femininity and emotional well-being through positive thinking and effective mental health practices. As the founder and president of the nonprofit organization I Choose Her, Lynn has authored 3 books focused on healing and personal growth. She often speaks at events on topics such as emotional healing and overcoming limiting beliefs. In addition to her professional pursuits, Lynn enjoys community service, spending time with her family, and finding joy in simple pleasures like reading and enjoying nature. She is married to Philip Meyer and is a mother of 5. With that being said, Lynn, thank you so much for being on this show, and I look forward to the experience and the great information that people will get to learn from you today. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for asking me to be here. I cannot wait to have this conversation with you because I know, like we said before, people want to hear what's
Mhm.
really going on behind the scenes, what's going on currently, and how I just feel about, the profession and the career. So,
Yeah.
yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I've known Lynn for quite some time. I want to say it's probably creeping up to about 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. But
Mhm.
but Lynn and I, we've worked together in the past, and so I still remember the day when you mentioned to me you were going to start your own business, and I was like, man, that is amazing. And honestly, when you mentioned that to me, I don't think I started mine at the time, but it was just that reminder that wow, look at you. You were bold enough to step out on your own and start something that I'm pretty sure that you were kind of passionate about, right? But I'm just curious to know at what point you realize I wanted to start a practice as a licensed professional counselor.
So this is funny because where we used to work before, we don't have to
Mhm.
mention that.
Mhm.
I had always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, even as a child.
Mm, yeah.
I would sell things, I would make things, I would sell things in the community, 5 cents here, 10 cents here, 25. Like I just would sell it like to my friends or to their parents, and they would be like, ah, so you have a little business. Yes, I do. So I knew as a child I would be an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Fast forward to when we worked together, I still had that in my head. It was then, it was then when we were let go,
Uh-huh.
all of us let go,
Hmm.
where I was kind of like kicked into entrepreneurship. It was like God was saying, hey, you wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Now this is your opportunity because where else are you going to go? So
Hmm.
that was really what actually helped me, like catapult me into that.
Yes.
It started because I knew I could be a great employee.
Hmm.
I knew that.
Right.
And I said, I can be an even better boss to
Wow.
myself, for myself. If
Absolutely.
I can show up with for someone else's dream and vision and company, just imagine what I can do for myself. And that's pretty much like where it all started. Like having that as a child and then growing up and then like knowing if I can show up and do that for other people, I can really make an impact with my own business. So that's
Absolutely.
pretty much where it started.
Hearing you speak, you remind me of myself a lot too, because I tell people all the time, I want to say as early as middle school, I knew I wanted to start a company as well too, or I wanted to be in business, although I didn't know exactly what it would be. But as I look back in hindsight and I look at my career trajectory and all the experience and knowledge that I've gained along the way, how it actually prepared me for that moment. And you're right, I think as a believer, right, God has a way of just forcing you into getting into the position that you should have always been in, right? But we also understand that you have to be prepared to be in that position so that way you can continue to start that business and thrive. And so with that being said, I mean, were you
Mhm.
a little bit nervous? Like talk to me about what
Oh, yeah.
was actually, knowing what you wanted to do and then actually doing it, what was that feeling like for you?
Well, feelings, emotions.
True. That is so true.
It was. It was like back and forth. It was excitement, and then it was fear, and then it was sadness, and then it was happy. Like it was definitely a contrast of the other end of the spectrum. One was like here, and then it was there. I don't ever
Mhm.
feel like in the middle. I don't ever feel like being like neutral. It was either like yay or oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you got it. No, you don't. So it was all of that,
Sure.
and it was more of like powerful. Like I was like, you can actually do this.
Yeah.
You know what to do, and the things you don't know to do, you know how to ask.
Mm.
So I'm an expert with mental health and all that, but I was not an expert with business. So it was more like, how do I start it?
Right.
What do I need to do? What's the first step? What is that? And and most people probably think, oh, maybe the first step is a name. And maybe it is a name,
Mhm.
or it may be like hiring someone. It may be whatever, because everybody's journey is different,
It
right?
is. Absolutely.
And so for me, it was more like, what impact do you want to make?
Hmm.
Okay. That was the first thing for me. And then the second or third thing, it was like, so they all probably came together after that. It was more like, who do you want to see? Do
Hmm.
you only want to see adults? That was another thing. So I only wanted to see adults. Okay. And so do you want to take insurance? Do you not want to take insurance? So those type of things started coming up in my head because I was just saying, yeah, it's a great idea to be an entrepreneur and all of that,
Hmm.
but there needs to be structure.
Yes.
Do you
Absolutely.
want to have like an email list? Do you want like, so all those things like people think about in business, um, is what I was thinking about. And when I knew who I was, so let me back up just a little bit,
Okay.
because I think I probably should have said this first. Um, Knowing me and
Mhm.
knowing who I am is what really helped me in business, because I knew I wasn't going to pretend to be anyone else. I'm a little bit unorthodox, and I tell my clients this all the time. I'm a little bit unorthodox as a therapist or a counselor, simply because I'm going to like straight shoot it. A lot of people really look at technique and skill, and I do too, but it's more like rigid. I'm very flexible in my words, and not
Yeah.
like um I do follow policies, procedures, regulations, all that. I do.
Mhm.
However, but my personality shows up.
Sure. Sure.
And that's the thing. A lot of people really don't do that because they're afraid, like, oh, is this professional? It's like this. I have a wrap on my head with
Hmm.
earrings. In business for someone else, I would not have done that, because someone
Right.
would say, oh, that's not professional. Who gets to say what's professional?
Hmm.
I do. I get to say what's professional.
Absolutely.
This is my personality. So I'm not button up anymore. So all those things like came into play, like when it, starting the business and all that. Like I wanted to show
Good.
my genuine self, my authentic self, because I knew that's how I was going to be able to reach my clients.
And I love that too, Lynn, because again, right, this is your business, you run it, right? And there's really no right or wrong per se, but this is what makes your business so unique. This is what makes you relatable and easy to make that connection with your clients, right, that come and see you. And so I think that exactly what you just explained. I know a lot of people go through those things when they're starting that business. What is it? What is acceptable? What is not? What is professional? Trust me, I've gone through that process as well too. So,
Mm,
with that being said, talk to me about some of the challenges that you experienced and what do you wish you would have known prior to starting your practice?
okay. Whew, challenges.
Yeah.
There were many. There were many. Not knowing how to receive referrals. So this is the thing. This is why it was challenging to me as an employee. And I keep going back to this because it may show up in other people. As
Mhm.
an employee, all my referrals were done for me. Like if
Okay.
you came
Yeah.
in to see the doctor, they just like it was like a funnel.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
saw the doctor, you saw me. I was like, oh, okay, fine. I didn't have to
Hmm.
find my own referrals. So that was a challenge. It's like, where do I find referrals? And the beautiful thing about the practice for me, a lot of my clients that were at the place where we used to work, they followed me.
Yeah.
They were like, where are you going?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that really
Mhm.
meant a lot, because you are at part of an entity, and then I'm no longer going to be there. And you want to follow me?
Hmm.
Oh, that was like an ego boost. I was like, that means we are doing great work together.
Correct.
But that was still a challenge because a few follow me. And then I was like, well, where do I get the other people?
Mm.
Okay, it's word of mouth. And I started just overthinking it. And then once I calmed down, I said, oh, but you know this doctor, and you know this person, you know this person. Let them know that you've left this place and you're doing it, you know. And that's when it started opening up. I was just like, how was that challenging? And it's
Yes.
because I'm overthinking. So that's part of the challenge. It's like you don't have to overthink. You like really use your contacts, like
Sure.
whoever's in your phone,
Yep.
whoever's at your church. You like let people know you started a business. That was another challenge. I wanted to start a business, but I didn't realize that I wasn't telling enough people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hey, do you know that I've started? And they're like, no, I didn't know that. I thought you were still working at such and such. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, no, let me tell you, this is what I'm doing. So that's a challenge. Like you have to open your mouth if you want people to buy from you, purchase from you, all those things like to support you, they need to know. Okay. So that's a challenge. Another thing that was a challenge is like, oh, is my husband really going to be like down with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Simply because he knew he was like, it's not your fault that you no longer work at that place.
Right.
He was like, so what do you want to do now? And I was like, hey, so I've been in mental health for so long. I'm thinking about this. And he was like, then do it. Again, me
Mm.
overthinking, and I know that may be challenging, but some people may have a partner that is not going to be open to entrepreneurship. They'll be like,
Yep.
nope, that is
Yep.
not stable.
Yep.
Go
Yep.
back to that 2 week check or whatever, because we know that money is coming. What are you thinking? And that could be challenging as well. He
Yes.
doesn't have that entrepreneurial mind,
Mm-hmm.
but he supports me because as he states a lot, he says, I know my wife.
Yeah.
I know
Absolutely.
whatever you say you're gonna do, you're gonna do it. And I'm like, thank you. But it was challenging in the beginning simply because I didn't know how he was gonna receive it.
Sure.
Because when you're so used to a certain amount of money coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to your spouse and you say, okay, well, we're used to that,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope to get to this,
Right.
but it may not be there for a little bit. So that was challenging. I'm trying to think of other things, my things that I think other people, another thing that I did in the
Sure.
beginning that I had to stop doing, I had to stop comparing myself with other people that
Mm.
started their own businesses.
Mm.
I was in the place, I know like comparison, what they say, it's like it steals your joy. I forget how it really goes. I literally had to stop comparing myself to people that were in business 10, 20 years before me. I was just starting out. So how in my mind was I comparing myself to this person?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're doing it. I'm like, girl, you just started. You just started. And they're doing it. Okay.
Right. Right.
You don't have the same spouses they do. They don't have the same spouses you do. Like you have different backgrounds, you have different everything. Stop comparing yourself. And I did that. And I'm telling you, Renee, I did that for a while. I was like, but they come back to you,
Yes.
come back to yourself. What do you do well? Well, I do
Absolutely.
this well. Okay, we'll focus on that. Well, they do. Nope. That's not yours.
Mm.
It's not, you don't do what they do. You stay in your lane, and not stay in your lane like your own box, but stay in your lane with what you do well. And the
Right.
things that you want to do well and you don't know how to, that's when you ask. So I would say those were my challenges in the beginning.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you hit. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head with a lot of great points. First, where you mentioned just struggling with knowing where to get the referrals, and then you also mentioned about opening your mouth to talk about the business. And I think, again, people can be shy about that, right? People are like, well, I don't want to say anything because what if my business fail? And I pick up be like, oh, such and such started a business and the business didn't do well. But you have to be able to open up your mouth. You have to put the word out there, right? Be the biggest advocate for your business. And then the referrals, right? I think now, especially in the mental health space, man, there's different platforms out there, like, Headway and a couple of those companies where you can start getting your clients, start
Mhm.
off slow and yes, reach out to your contacts, but just don't be afraid to get out there and put the word out because through that, you network, you start building the right relationships, it's going to come. But consistency is key. And
Mhm.
then one of I mean, a great thing you also mentioned is getting the support of your spouse. I cannot express how important that is, right? Because it's almost like you get that green light. Now, like, oh, okay, I'm good. Now I can go and do exactly what I need to do because that support, that's where it starts.
Mhm.
And your story is very similar to mine. Because again, when my wife supported for me to go and start this,
Mhm.
and just like you, I remember thinking, I'm gonna be a little fish in this big pond, right? All these consulting companies that are huge, large, established. Who is going to trust me? You know?
Mhm.
But I have to realize I have years of experience. I know how to do this. And so I have to start believing in myself. And so once I got over that hump, and there's this thing, it's called oh my goodness, it just escaped my mind, but it's almost like I'm going to forget this, but oh yes, it's called imposter syndrome, right?
Oh,
It's like you are a professional. You've been doing this for years and years and years, but now that you start a company to where people can pay you for your service and knowledge, it's almost as if you develop this imposter syndrome, as if like, okay, well, I'm not really an expert. No, yes, you are. And so those are the conversations that I have had to have with myself early on. It's like, Renee, you know this. I mean, you can talk about it in your sleep if you wanted to, so don't feel like you are an imposter. But a part of it is again putting, yourself out there and and I guess it's just trying to, you want the world to see you the way that you intend them to see you, but a part of it is just stepping out there. Once you step out there, like, oh, okay, you know what? I know my stuff. It doesn't matter if this person works for a large company or not, but we do the same thing, right? And so it's just being able to get over that, and I think a lot of new business owners, especially in the healthcare space, they deal with that imposter syndrome. It is a real thing. So I wanted to point that out.
I want to say something to that. A couple of things you said.
Mhm.
When we when we start off like, oh, we're new and these other businesses are established and they're, like a small fish in a big pond. I
Hmm.
know I felt the very same way. And I had to remind myself, do you know who you are?
Hmm.
Do you know how long you've been doing this?
Yes.
And that's the thing. Literally, I could talk this, I cannot have a speech created, scripted, whatever. And if someone says, I'm going to give you the mic for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 45 minutes, and I want you to speak on mental health, or I want you to speak, it would not be a problem. And
Uh,
when I started talking like that, I was like, if you know your stuff like that, where
yeah.
you would be like rambling and like you can give me a mic and say, talk on trauma, talk on healing, talk on
Mhm.
this. What?
Yep. No problem.
Anytime and with no problem.
Yeah.
That's when I had to start showing up. I was like, it doesn't matter if you just started a business. What
Correct.
do you already know?
Yes.
What do you already know? Yeah, people may
Absolutely.
not know your name as this business, but you have an expertise in this.
Hmm.
So that was another thing too. And another thing I had that was challenging, I'll go back to it because when you were talking, it made me think about it. Oh my God, are they going to pay me for this? They absolutely will.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They
Yep.
absolutely will. Do you not know? Like, and I was like, oh, but is this like my pricing was like up and down? And I don't know about you, but like my pricing was up and down because it was that limiting belief on the inside.
Same.
Should
Same.
I?
Yep.
Should I? Should no? Should no? And I was like, stay out of
I
people's
know.
pockets.
I
Okay,
know.
because we pay for whatever we want to pay for, right?
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
invest in whatever we want to invest in.
So
Like,
true.
stop like lowering your standards. Like, okay, I'm only going to speak for me. I'm not going to speak
Yeah.
for anybody that's watching.
Yeah.
um I had to look at myself and say it's about the transformation. It's
Hmm.
about what result you can get. It's the solution. It's not about a person's pocket.
Correct.
Because again, I think about trips people go on.
Hmm.
I think about expensive designer things people buy. Like, if you want it, you're going to make a way. If
Correct.
you need it, you're gonna make a way. So that I had to stop doing that too. I was like, stop counting people's money. Look at the solution that you're giving. Look at this
Yes.
that you are. I'm like, okay, that's what it is. And again, it was just like, do I believe in myself?
Yes.
Do I believe that this can work? The minute I start, okay, so let me tell you a level.
Sure.
I do, I do. a thought, this is my level. I do a thought, my thought turns into my belief, and my belief turns into my no,
Yes,
the K-N-O-W.
absolutely.
Once I do that, I'm like, oh, that's a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, wait a minute. I think that this could work. That turns into the belief. And
Yeah,
when I start really getting into it, nope, I know it. That's it.
I
And
love it.
every single time I do that, and
Yep.
when I get to the no part, there is
Yeah.
no stopping me. There's like
Correct.
stopping me. Like there's nothing stopping me once I know that things are gonna
Mm.
work.
I love that, Lynn. I really do, because you just put things in perspective into a frame that essentially you just kept it simple. A thought came, you thought about it, and you believed it, and you're like, you know what, I can do it, and you go and do it. Because again, do you know how many people thought about something but never believed in it? And because
Mhm.
they didn't believe in it, and then it's not until months or years later, oh my goodness, I thought about that. But somebody was like, well,
Somebody else did it.
yep, you didn't believe it, right? So trust me, and I've had those moments too, but I mean, you hit on some good things, and I mean, it resonate with me as a healthcare entrepreneur as well. Yes, the pricing is huge. People sometimes set their pricing so low because they're just like, well, I'm new, let me set it low, then maybe I could get some more clients. I was that guy as well. But you're right. You know what you know what you're good at, and you're providing that service. Set your pricing where you know you want it to be, right? And the truth is, everybody's not for you, right? There will be some clients, yep, they'll be, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm gonna pay for it because
Mhm.
you're good at what you do. And
Exactly.
sometimes some clients, it might take a little bit for them to actually become a believer. But long story short, when you get those positive reviews and you're getting people the results that they need, other people will come around as well, and it will continue to grow. So that is a great point. So now I'm going to ask this other question here. Was
Okay.
there a time where you felt like quitting?
Absolutely. In the very beginning, because again, because you mentioned that's the thing I want to talk about, and it's going to answer this question.
Okay.
Imposter syndrome. For
Yes.
me, we think differently. We all think differently.
Hmm.
I don't ever feel like I ever had imposter syndrome simply because I don't feel like Black people can have imposter syndrome.
Mm.
This is why I say that because
Okay.
their society is in a way of conditioning and
Yeah.
programming and all that. And if we try to match ourselves or be at the level of what society says, then
Yeah.
of course we're going to think we're not enough. But it's like, what?
Yeah.
No, that is not our thing anyway. That's their stuff. Like
Yeah.
because we are above the level anyway. Like we surpass anything that society is supposed to do. We
Hmm.
are great at everything. We are greater than the things that they tell us. Like if we're supposed to make, if the 100 is the highest score,
Hmm.
we have to make 150
Yeah.
for them to even look at us.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we even have imposter syndrome. I just think when that shows up, and I get what you're saying, but when that shows up, it's because now we're looking at the level of what they said we're supposed to be. We're always greater than that anyway.
Yeah.
So now let me answer your question.
Sure.
Um, in the beginning, because it was new, and I was like, I really don't know what I'm doing. So I
Hmm.
was like, should I do this?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I should go back and work for someone else, or maybe. And so it was that.
Mm.
Um, I probably felt it again maybe after the end of year one, because I'm like, it's been a year and
Right.
I'm still not where I want to be. And that's a real
Right.
thing. You
Yes.
may be able to do well after a year, but for me, I did not. It was more like still up and down, not really,
Yeah.
and at that time, and then I took it back to my husband, hey, it's been a year. I kind of need some support. I don't really know. He was like, keep going. It's
Yeah.
only been a year. I'm like, okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's been that. And I haven't felt like quitting
Hmm.
after maybe like after that first year.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like expanding or asking myself, what can I do more?
Right.
But in the very beginning and after that first year, yeah, I thought about like quitting, like maybe I should, but mm-mm.
Yeah.
And let me say this, it
Hmm.
is nothing wrong with people having a business, having that entrepreneurial mind and a job.
Yep. I agree.
Let your 9 to 5 fund
Yes.
your business.
Correct.
Like just because you want to start a business doesn't mean you need to stop your 9 to 5 if you have it. Keep
Mm.
it.
Yeah,
or keep both. Like I know a lot of my colleagues that have both. They have a business and they have a 9 to 5.
absolutely.
It makes sense to them.
It does. It does. And the thing is, it's because I talk with a lot of providers all the time, especially those who are thinking about starting a practice. And I tell them this all the time, never quit your job, um, unless your business is making you what you're currently making or more, right? But there's levels to things, right? Especially if you're going to start this business, it's going to start off as a side thing and then eventually continue to, grow it, but definitely put the time into it. But I always feel like at some point, right?
Mhm.
Especially if your end goal is to grow this business and focus on that, then you'll get to that point where, okay, you have to make a decision. Do I walk away
Yeah.
from my 9 to 5 and just solely do this,
Mhm.
or just keep it where it's at and don't really grow it? So I always tell a lot of the providers that I have conversations about that with. And I think the other aspect to it too, just like you said, right? I think, I asked that question about if there was a time where you thought about quitting, because it is a real thing, right? Because being in business, you're gonna have your high time, your high moments, and your moments where things are a little bit low.
Yeah.
But what I realize is that as a business owner, you have to always learn how to pivot, right?
Yeah.
And make sure you are in the know, especially I think with technology, with AI and all that coming out, and it's getting better and better and better. Is one of
Mhm.
those things that you have to figure out, how do I incorporate certain things into my business to continue to keep up with the economy and the times, right? Because I think if you don't, then you can find yourself eventually squeezed out, and it's like, oh man, right? So it's just one of those things, because I know I was there too
Mhm.
at one point, and I had a conversation with this guy named Socrates. He lived out in Orlando, a successful business guy, and having a conversation with him, he was one of those people where I can think back in life through conversations. It has truly changed the trajectory of my life, and having a conversation with him, it did that for me and the business. And and he actually wrote this book. Forgive me, Socrates. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I have it right here on my shelf. But it, basically, it teaches you about, when you're starting a business and you're building it up, how to keep going and not, not worries about, what if I don't make it? What if I don't do well? But putting things in plan, structuring your business so that way you can actually be successful and be intentional about it as well. And so, my advice to any business owner out there is just to keep going, continue to, find a community of other business
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. And it doesn't have to be in the same field or industry, right? But because I know, Lynn, you share things with me all the time, and I'm very appreciative of that, right? Because, at the end of the day, you might see something that I don't know, and then you share it with me like, oh man, this is great stuff right here, and vice versa. So
Right.
having that community to me is crucial.
I agree. I agree. And also, it's like when it comes to that,
Hmm.
when I talk about keeping your 9 to 5, you don't always have to spend your money. That's another thing I found
That's
out.
true.
Like
Yeah.
there's grants out there. There's people like it is good to get involved in like research if you want to become a part of the Chamber of Commerce in your city, in your, all those, because those people know what they're doing. And
Yeah.
that's where you can find money. Like because
Hmm.
at the beginning, that's what I was doing. I was funding my business out of my own money. I was like, this is getting out of hand. Let me try something different. So that look, search for grants. There's grants that give out weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever, over time. Look into that too, because you don't want to just continue to just like burn through your savings or taking money out of the household. Like really open
True.
yourself up to like finding where the money is, because grants we don't have to pay back. So look into
Mhm.
that.
Absolutely.
I wish somebody would have told me that too in the beginning.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, because I looked at some grants as well too, but it's definitely sometimes it's just having the time, setting apart and looking for it and obviously applying for it. But you're right. I think the grants are definitely a great way to be able to get the funds that you need to invest into your business and growing
For
it. So
sure. And
Wonderful.
saying something with the grant too, if you're not the person that can do it, maybe that's the one thing you do hire someone for. You're like, you know what? I do have a little money for that, or I have this set to the side, or I have this money set to the side and I didn't know how I was going to use it. Wow, thank you. That's the person I'm going to hire to do these grants for me or whatever. Like you can get
Very
um,
true.
very like look into things like, oh, I can hire this person. I can hire this. Like, find, you know your strength. You know where
Yes.
your strength is and you know where your weakness is. So, and it doesn't have to be like a whole year. Maybe you just hire that person for this quarter. Hey, I
Right.
have this money and I'm hiring you for this quarter. This is the amount of grants I want you to apply for, you
Mhm.
know? So,
Absolutely, for sure. So let me
yeah.
ask you, so one thing I realized when you start a business, you have that initial idea of what the business is going to be about,
Yeah.
the services that you're going to offer. But my
Mhm.
question to you is, from the first time you thought about starting your practice and to where you are today, has your business changed ever since the inception of it?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I felt like I was only going to work with adults and I was only going to work with women.
Hmm.
Mm-mm. Now, the men were like, hey,
Yeah.
first of all,
Yeah.
you can't leave us out. Did you forget about us? And I was like, no, but I'm not sure how to work with you yet. And so that's the part that has changed. And so
Okay.
now, we opened up to, work with men too, because I like that was my lane.
Yeah.
I'm working with women that have dealt with this because that's me, right?
Hmm.
But then the guys were like, you suck because we need you too. And,
We
and I'm like,
need.
oh, okay. I was like, wait, I don't know. And so that's the part that has changed. So now we work with women and men.
Good.
Yeah, because in the beginning, I didn't think I could serve a man in the way that he needed to be served. And so this is like, okay, this is real deal. I did not think that the purpose that I had over my life was to serve men too. I only thought God wanted me to serve women. I'm
Gotcha.
gonna be honest, Renee. I only thought he wanted me to serve women. And then when I kept getting like DMs and emails, I was like, huh, this is interesting.
Hmm.
And I would refer them out. I was like, but you can work with such and such. He's great. I know him. And they're like, okay, but what about you? And I was like,
Right.
well, I don't know about that yet.
Mm.
But we want you. Okay, well, I don't know. So then as God started revealing to me, he was like, you're not only here to serve women, you're here to serve people. And
Yep.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
see, I was thinking that was just women because I'm a woman. And he was like, no,
Yeah.
no, no. They didn't keep coming to you and emailing you and reaching out to you for any reason. You're supposed
Hmm.
to. And I'm like, okay, Jesus, I'm listening. So
Yeah.
that's been the change.
That's wonderful. I'm glad. It's like again, right? You have a business, you have something in mind, but it's like the market will kind of tell you things, right? But in your case, yes, God spoke to you and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
listen, you got to serve men too." And
Hmm.
honestly, if you ask me, I would say yes for you to definitely serve men. I think with your personality type, I think people will be able to resonate with you and just being able to listen and give them the sound structure, advice and methods of how to deal with their emotions and whatnot. I think you'd be great at that. So I'm glad that you also incorporated men for sure.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
good. Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
This is definitely exciting for sure. So I guess what advice would you give to a licensed professional counselor or just any provider if they're thinking about starting their practice? What would be some advice that you would want to give to them?
Yeah. Whew, a bunch.
Mhm.
As I stated before, be open to learn how
Mhm.
your skill set can be used in different areas across the board.
Mhm.
Now, I'll say if you're going to stay as a licensed professional counselor, of course, there's regulations and all of that. We know that.
Right.
So if that's your focus to open up your own practice, understand that just follow the LPC guidelines and regulations. Definitely
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
Um, and also, should you say, like what I did, should you say, well, there's some people I want to start coaching. Now you can operate under the umbrella of coaching. Okay. You're not
Okay.
doing counseling. You're not doing
Okay.
counseling. Two different things. You're operating under coaching because I know a lot of us like that have license of LPC,
Mhm.
LMFT, PhDs, the LCSWs, we can burn out. Um, so there's other things that we still want to do. And so that's the avenue I went. It was like, well, I want to do coaching. I want to help women and I want to do this, but I don't want to stay under the umbrella of LPC because the regulation of this, I have to, operate in that,
Okay.
because of ethics and all that. And absolutely, I uphold that. And then there's this other side. And so just figure out like where you want to go in your business. Like, do you want to stay under the umbrella of that or do you want to branch out to something different? Because they're two different entities and you can still do great work.
Mhm.
Is your business something that you want to like create a facility or like it just really looking into
Sure.
what you want to do because there's so many things that you can do. Like this
Absolutely.
can you can birth many things, but just be aware of like how you want to operate. Because again, you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm over here coaching, but I'm doing counseling. No.
Right.
You want to
True.
be able to separate it, because you don't want to get in trouble, but you still want to serve the people.
Sure.
So I would say that, like, really look into what you really, really, really like, what speaks to your heart.
Hmm.
Um, how you want to impact the community. Like what is your community? Like that's another thing. Is it just the people in your zip code or is it your whole city or is it just area of maybe like it's just I only want to work with shelters or I only want to work with military. Like look and see where it is. Like where do you want to show up? And I think that's a really good start.
Wonderful. Lynn, thank you so much. I definitely enjoy speaking with to you all the time, for sure.
Mhm.
And I'm sure all the great insights, your experience as a healthcare entrepreneur, people will definitely find value in that. And for those of you who are definitely listening and watching this, please make sure to check out the description. I've posted links to Lynn's social media accounts, so you can definitely follow her and also get in contact with her. Lynn is an experienced licensed professional counselor, and she's great at what she does. And thank you so much, Lynn, for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. And anytime you want to talk about anything, you want to bring me back, I am here. So just let me know.
Awesome. Sounds good. We'll be
Yeah.
back. All right.
Yeah.